So both these clubs with 7 points from their opening 8 games. It leaves them 3 points adrift now of Manchester United in the league table, but only 5 points adrift of Nantes in 6th, the final knockout stage place. And whereas because of that, it is open, but we heard there from one of the Schalke boys, and I know you've spoken to them earlier, they are well aware that if they keep on going through match weeks without picking up too much, it won't be too long before really that top 6 is nigh on impossible.
Yeah, you don't want to get it to a stage where you're leaving it to the last 2 or 3 games or the last 2 or 3 match days before you start playing. You need to start performing. Harry's alluded to it so many times before, saying about how, you know, games are running out for teams, and for Schalke and for Arsenal, it's no different. I think it's more surprising from Schalke, given the fact that their team have got that inbuilt chemistry, have been playing with each other for so many years. With Arsenal, it's not as surprising because the team's only just really been put together, and we're only really seeing the kind of the birth of that team in terms of in terms of that combination working together, and I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how it pans out.
So what's fun, just taking a little look over the Schalke starting 11. One of the main things that El Matador has spoken to me about in weeks previous is their lack of personnel, and maybe wishing for some backup from Schalke in real life in terms of transfers. They've gained Todibo from Barcelona. They've also gained Gregoric as well, playing up front, and they're actually starting him here against Arsenal. So it will be fun to see whether or not they can utilise him. They have some new toys to play with, so we'll see if he is the band-aid on the cut for Schalke 04 so far.
Todibo looked like he was starting right back as well. From Arsenal's point of view, they have a German in their ranks in S. Vanham. He'll be looking over at the German club. Wouldn't mind beating his countrymen. I am sure those things, they do count, do they? There's such a tight-knit group of players. They all know each other very well, and he'll be enjoying representing Arsenal, and he'd probably like to get one over Schalke as well.
I mean, he'd like 3 points no matter the opponents. I mean, 3 points adrift of Manchester United, I think you said earlier on. So 3 points here, you're right back in the hunt. 6 points here, you propel yourself up the table and essentially condemn the opposition here. And what's fun is that, again, it's the same story for both teams. They both find themselves in the lower half of the table, in last and second last positions, 10th and 9th. So for me, Schalke need to worry about their defensive capabilities. They've got a -8 goal difference coming into today, and that at this level of competition, they need to shore up that back line and make sure they aren't hemorrhaging goals as they have previously.
Coming into match day 5, just looking at the league table, they were 3 points off Boa Vista in 6th spot. They're now 7th off Nantes in 6th spot. So the results haven't gone the way really that either of these clubs would have hoped. I don't think they are that bit further away, which again, we come back to it. It means these 2 fixtures are of huge significance for both clubs.
Yeah, well, I think if we had a mirror of what happened last game with 2 draws, I don't think that does either team anything. So I think realistically, I think it's win or bust, I think, for these 2 at this point. But you know, we've seen the individual brilliance of Alex Giardi. We know he's hungry for goals. We know that he has that capability. And on the flip side as well, we know that the Schalke contingent, they're proud. They don't want to be bottom of the table. They're shall we say, kind of disgruntled with their league position at this point.
They are. We are underway. The final fixture of match day 5 of this season's eFootball.Pro. It's Schalke against Arsenal. It's the bottom 2 who can finish the day with some points and some smiles.
And we condemn Schalke for their goal conceding record. Look at that, 15 goals conceded by Arsenal themselves. So when you look on paper, this one should certainly yield goals. Whereas, and speaking about with a winter transfer, you can see there Gregoric in the middle. Commentator's nightmare, you have Nastasic here as well. A couple of key members for Schalke actually lost in the winter window. I'll come back to that, as it's like Nastasic is trying to put the pressure on. But they've lost a couple of key players they've relied on in the winter window. Steven Skrubski and Nabil Bentaleb both lost. So they were 2 players that Schalke like to start here in the eFootball.Pro, and they are no longer eligible for selection.
Yeah, and you know, we saw Bentaleb being utilised in the kind of first couple of match days, but as we've seen as these match days go on, it's evolving the way that these teams are playing. They really are evolving, trying to how they're trying to play. Still, though, I mean, the interesting point I'd say for Schalke at this point is that Harit is now more central, and it's kind of where he's at home. He doesn't like being up front, doesn't like being on the wing. So it'll be nice to see him back in kind of native territory.
Yeah, we know he's got a venomous curler on him, so you stick him in the centre of the pitch, he's always going to cause trouble. The North London club, though, now on the prowl. That will be a throw-in, though, to Schalke and Althea. And at this point, Wes, the pressure for both of these two clubs, underperforming so far coming into matchday 5. You have matches ahead of you still to come. The pressure on this game alone, when you look at the league table and how it stands, it's got to be massive.
Yeah, well, we all saw the difference in body language between United as they are now versus United when they first started playing. Even when they were scoring, they weren't really celebrating because they knew it meant more, that they needed more points. And if it's having that kind of psychological effect on you, then yeah, it's going to bring that pressure.
Lacazette to Aubameyang, almost finds him, but unfortunately is cut out. Looking forward to seeing Alex Giardi once again play with the freedom that he did last week. Here he is on the ball with Guendouzi, looking for Nicola Pepe at the back post, but can't find him. That goal last week with the double touch with Nicola Pepe might be one to look out for once again if he can play with the same freedom. Here is Boujaleb. Had Harit with a late run in, and it's going to force the foul out of Guendouzi, but maybe the chance had gone once they didn't pick out Harit.
You've got to commend Schalke for the fact that they've changed formation, and now they're starting to utilise players that we haven't seen. We haven't seen Bergstaller, although it was a great run from Aubameyang.
Aubameyang's in here with Christopher, pretty much one-on-one. Didn't have any other options other than maybe to test Langer in the Schalke goal. But you're right, we are seeing Schalke really start to experiment with their lineups, and at this point of the season they need to find something that works. So far early on, I would argue it's neck and neck between these two clubs. Omar Mascarell cuts it out. Schalke playing with some urgency here. There is a long ball on here to the new signing, Gregoric. Tackled well by Medley. I think it was Alex Giardi to commit the defensive duties there, and now Arsenal can attack. Guendouzi looking for Lacazette. That's a wayward one, though, from Christopher. Uncharacteristic of a player of his calibre. He likes to retain possession, so he'll be regretting that one, especially if Schalke come up the other end. Here is Merkan looking for Harry on the edge. Blasts it wide. It was well worked, and one of those risky chances we expect these players to take more of here, Wes, and unfortunately it's not on target, but venomous strike from Harit.
Yeah, first time shot there from Harit. Probably wasn't the right option, but at least we're seeing more from Schalke. We saw such a reserved game plan from them in the last 2 or 3 match days that to see them playing in the way that they are is actually it's a pleasant surprise. But Aubameyang finds his way through. Becker gets the block.
Becker cuts it out. Bergstaller in support of Gregoric, and I think those are the two front men that Harit's going to try and feed for Schalke and Althea. And for all the time we're focusing on Schalke, we have to say Arsenal, despite their goal-scoring form, I mean, haven't picked up maybe as many points as we'd argue they should have so far. So the North London club really need to buck their ideas up, and coming into the season we pegged them as a team that would be in the knockout phases with the likes of Christopher and S-Venom. Christopher, of course, was at the World Finals last year, was a finalist for Europe, and of course is captaining Portugal in the Euro competition later on this year. That's a lovely touch from Bergstaller to take this one home. Has Harit now in support. Just runs out of avenues to run down, but coming back to my point, Arsenal almost fallen flat, the trio up there, especially with Alex Giardi, who was in the knockout phases with FC Nantes last year, the eFootball.Pro. Combine them with the two I just mentioned, really should be further up the table than they find themselves. They have an attack on now, though. Aubameyang has Pepe in support, but rushed that one a little bit, and we're approaching half-time. neither team with any smart ideas. Moved up to Aubameyang. Is offside though. Christopher there is going to be penalised, and as we rapidly approach half-time, really a lack of attacking creativity. You could argue Schalke, probably the team with the greater chances. Gregoritsch there cannot win the header, and it will be deadlock at the break.
Well, the two teams with the worst offensive stats drawing 0-0 at half-time.
Oh, well,
4 goals in 8.5 games for Schalke now, and 9 goals for Arsenal in 8.5 matches. And have we seen why? Where's in that opening period?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Schalke, they're playing a lot better than they had in previous match days. It's just they, you know, through one half chance that was Harit and one shot. I mean, there's been, what, 2 shots in the game? They've just not been able to get into those right positions. But I think at the moment, I think if you're looking at it on the balance of play, Schalke are definitely the more aggressor of the two here. It's just going to be a case of who gets an opportunity, who gets a clear-cut opportunity, and then who finishes it off. And I think that's going to be the kind of the interesting bit for going forward.
A new man on the pitch enters the fray for Schalke, Katucu. One for Bergstaller, who is playing up top alongside the new man, Gregoritsch. He is stripped of the ball, and Arsenal now with possession can attack from the left-hand side of the pitch. Here is Lacazette trying to combine with Aubameyang. We've seen those two in previous iterations of competitive PES really be a vital combination. Can't quite link up there though, and Pepe's been kept very quiet here as well. Schalke with a long ball then. Maybe just hoping for a slight bit of fortune there, and the quality of football so far from both of these clubs hasn't been the greatest, whereas maybe again those nerves playing in, and might be seeing a reason why both of these two clubs so far not the most stellar goal scoring record we've seen.
Well, they're both under huge pressure at this point. You know, with the results the way that they've gone today, I think that's where this pressure is in.
Lacazette to Aubameyang, Nicola Pepe in here as well. Good block there by El Matador to force the corner here, Chris.
Sense maybe it's one of those games that whoever gets the first goal, confidence might begin to flood forward, and you might see them then looking back at this fixture as the one that turned their season around. But as long as it's 0-0, it's very tight out there, as it's another corner which is blocked by the first man, who comes scampering out. Every player that we see adopts that same tactic to try and block the corner, and it works a lot more than you might expect.
Kolasinac finds Medley. He's met by Bujaleb. Brilliant clearance and defensive work there from Merriman. Arsenal growing into this game here in the second half with a somewhat sustained period of pressure. Guendouzi into the final third now, looking for Pepe in behind Kabak, but well dealt with by the Schalke defence. Harit with a chance now to counter. You're just never seeing those deep runs from Schalke, nor from Arsenal, that we've seen from other clubs here in the eFootball.Pro. Think about the devastating runs from deep that we've seen from FC Nantes earlier on today, FC Barcelona.
Celtic as well.
Celtic, of course.
Well, if you're Schalke, if you're looking to have those such runs, there's two players on their bench. One is Rahman, Belgian winger, who we've always saw, and the other one who we haven't seen at all, Rabbi Matonda. They've got bags of pace, they've got bags of running. Just put them on and at least ask the question of that back line.
We were talking, seems a long time ago, as we walk into the studios this morning, about how you get in that bubble, and particularly if you're a team who are bottom of the table, maybe taking that step back and Matondo might be an option. You think, we have got to change something. Are you surprised that they haven't maybe looked for a more wholesale change to try and switch their fortunes, which ever since Matchday 1 have been on the slide?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if you're going away and you're researching all of your squad, you would at least try all of your squads in different scenarios. It wouldn't just be, well, this is our squad, this is how we're doing it. I mean, the two subs that we've seen there from Schalke echo the subs that we saw on Matchday 1, which is Rahman and Wilson McKennie, who adds a different dimension to their midfield. It's now going to be a case of whether those subs actually pull off as we see that Arsenal have brought on Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah, you're now going to have a game. It's going to be a game of the subs, and whose subs work out more. You know, and we'll certainly see from here what happens.
Aubameyang plays it off to Reece Nelson, and Nketiah is forward as well.
I've been enjoying the fact that Leeds didn't play Nketiah, so he was recalled by Arsenal to try and get some first-team football, which thus means that he's available in eFootball.Pro.
Of course, and in eFootball PES 2020 as well. Aubameyang has Nelson outside him. Next to go inside, though, the Schalke defence so far has held steady. Reece Nelson's in here. Aubameyang just a little hesitant maybe to latch onto the ball. Here is Rahman, has Harrit on the inside, uses him. Kutucu ahead. Just a little bit forced there for Schalke 04. The man on the ball, though, is fouled. And they will retain possession. And it's not surprising for me to see more changes come in here for Arsenal, because on paper, we would say that Arsenal before today was maybe a little unlucky to not have more points than they had, considering the goals they've scored against teams like FC Nantes. I believe AS Monaco, they got a couple of goals against as well, but couldn't really convert their goals into points. Whereas on the other side, Schalke 04, outclassed, I suppose you could argue, at almost every stage. So do you think Arsenal, if they came away with, for example, 2 draws against Schalke, would be the less happy of the two sides?
Definitely, I think so. I think if you're looking at you know, in terms of the landscape of the league, they both need 6 points here. I don't think we can stress that enough. And you know, with 20 minutes to go, there's going to be one clear opportunity that's going to come up here, and it's going to be whether it gets taken or not. I think that'll be the difference maker.
Martinelli introduced here for Arsenal. It's lofted towards him, maybe trying to force a mistake at the back by a German club from the Gelsenkirchen region of Germany. Will be a foul once again on a Schalke man, which will turn over possession to them.
Yeah, I think we heard from Matadors at 4 kickoff saying we need 3, 4, 6 points to remain in the hunt. So if they only get 1 from this match, then you're looking at maybe almost a must-win for Schalke.
Yeah.
Even this early on. Of course, we are going to still got what 4 match days to go before the knockout stages, but Schalke need to start picking up points quickly. So do Arsenal.
Amine Harrit to save possession here for Schalke, and Schalke haven't looked like a possession-based team so far in the eFootball.Pro 2020 season, but they have the ball here. It's a lovely first touch there. First touch pass from Kutucu. Can't find a fellow teammate. Mascarell with good positioning there to win the ball back. Kutucu making a run from deep ahead. It's almost lobbed aimlessly to him. Schalke look like they're lacking ideas at the moment, but the ball still comes toward the Arsenal goal. Finally cut out by Guendouzi, who's caught late. The referee will pull that one back. Nicola Pepe has been shepherded out by Todibo, who has arrived from Barcelona. Has played well so far for Schalke into the last 5 minutes. If there's a goal now, surely it will be a winner. Martinelli just sums up the entire first game between these two clubs with 1 passage of play, out for a goal kick, and this game has not been a classic, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, we've been spoilt today. It's been absolute goals and chances galore for most of the matches, but you know what? I get the sense Schalke and Arsenal won't care if they can ultimately find a late winner, but yeah, it's been dogged, I think, with 4 minutes left. Some more tinkering going on from both sets of players. I think they've both made 3 changes, so these are very much tactical switches they're going to make. Because turning 1 point into 3, given both their league positions in the final game of match day 5 would be huge. Of course, 1 more fixture to come between these two coming up after this. This is just game 1 of Schalke against Arsenal. And can somebody bring some late entertainment? We've seen late goals throughout today.
The target was Pepe, but cut out by McKinney, and now Rahman's through. This is the type of chance maybe that Schalke might try and feed off late on, as Arsenal no doubt with the changes from Christopher, will try and play a possession-based game, but they've given the ball away here. 2 minutes added on. Looking for Rahman, cut out well by Alex GRD. Now we're into crunch time. Last chance of the game, looks like it will fall Arsenal's way. Pepe, cut out by Todibo, and that will be the last kick of the match. The game ends goalless, an attritional affair. In the end, is a draw between these two clubs.
I think that is the first 0-0 that we've had today from memory.
Potentially the entire season.
I think attritional is absolutely the correct adjective to use as well. Schalke and Arsenal get ready to go again in what will be the final game of match day 5. We'll see the best of the action. Schalke probably with the most clear-cut opportunities. Or perhaps, I seem to remember one very good chance that they had. That one was an effort from distance, but whilst they didn't score, I guess both teams, the positive they'll take from it, given they've shipped goals a lot this season, is the fact that they didn't concede as well. That's something to build on.
Yeah, that's, I suppose, a glimmer of hope for them, but ultimately I think both of these two clubs wanted more out of that first game, and there were glimmers of hope from Schalke 04, you know, asking for some support and maybe some new transfers coming into the rest of the season. They've got their man in Gregoric to play up front. Haven't really utilised him as well, and I suppose you could argue it's freed up Amine Harit to play in behind in the classic number 10 role that he's so famous for. For me, it was working a lot better for them in the first half, and I feel like as soon as Arsenal figured out their tactics, switched to a 4-man midfield with 2 up top, from then on it was mostly Christopher, that man on your screen, really directing traffic.
It's also very interesting. I wouldn't say a forlorn Schalke-looking team there, but a few shakes of the head, almost resigned, whereas Arsenal quite clearly here are deep in discussion. I would say of the two, they look the more positive going into the final fixture. And remember, if one of them can win this, they still would have picked up 4 points against their opponent, Wes, which they certainly would have taken before today. So a real opportunity still, if they can improve on their attacking play, either of these clubs.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, if you look at this now, if Arsenal or Schalke go on and win this, go level on points with Nantes, would be in 6th. So a win here, I think that was the point that the Schalke guys were making, was that if a win here will really put them back in the hunt for this. But it's whether they can, materialise a chance or chances to get a goal in this game, because at the moment it seems as though it's almost a bit of a stalemate, and it's almost like they've kind of matched each other.
Here we go then. It is the final game. The final game of match day 5. It's been a brilliant day of PES action. Can Schalke or Arsenal finish it off with a victory and a much, much needed boost?
We will see what will happen here. Here is Matondo, and he's been a man that you've been calling for, Wes, to be brought on. So we'll see if the Schalke players can utilise him to the best of their abilities. Boujalev on the left-hand side here. Amine Harit playing a little deeper than maybe the Schalke players would like him to. This left-hand side seems to be the targeted area of attack so far for Schalke. That one will fall only to an Arsenal man. First time pass from Alex GRD was a good idea, looking for Lacazette, but in the end will only turn over possession. Here is Mercan, finds Mascarell. Tucci was there in support, but holding well defended. With Mercan here again. Harit, lovely turn, but blocked by Christopher. And look at this, Aubameyang's through in behind. Todibo, the man fresh from Barcelona, great covering. He's been playing very well so far for Schalke. Might be the defensive player they need, but oh no, look at this, Lacazette feeds Aubameyang! And it's the first goal between these two clubs. We had to wait 2 halves of football to find it. But the North London club draw first blood, and it will be 1-0 to the Gunners.
And all of a sudden, the game complexion just changes. So it was a little bit of a defensive error. It was a little bit of awareness from the attacker as well, to be able to put the ball across to Aubameyang. It's just a bit casual from Schalke. It's a challenge ball there. Again, the defenders don't really react very well to it, and Aubameyang just says, "Thank you, I'll take that."
Schalke boys caught sleeping. They might be furious that they've allowed this to go in if it stays this way come the end of the match, but maybe a bit more power needed on the goal kick. Arsenal won't care at all. They lead Schalke 04 in a bottom of the table tie, which could have massive implications if either of these two teams find themselves in a knockout place come the end of the season.
Yeah, sorry, just to correct myself earlier, it would put them a victory for either side here would actually put them 1 point behind Nantes in 6th position. So again, paramount importance, and it was that man Venom we've very rarely seen in this season be as vocal as we traditionally have seen him. It's good to see him back on the score sheet.
Emiliano Spinelli, otherwise known as S Venom, coming in with his 3rd goal of the season. I mean, we would have argued coming into the season, Wes, that he would be one of the leading goal scorers for Arsenal, given that he has such talented attackers behind him. But it's been far from the case so far for the man representing Arsenal. They struggled to find goals, but that one might be a crucial one. Maitland-Niles now looking for Aubameyang straight down the throat of the Schalke defence. Aubameyang, though, from the previous passage of play, coming back from an offside position. For all Schalke's 79% possession, 20 minutes gone so far in this game. They find themselves on the losing end of a 1-0 lead. And Arsenal, every time they come forward, look to have more men, and
it's 4-on-4 in this particular attack as Maitland-Niles takes over. That was a chance there for Arsenal.
It seems like every time Arsenal come forward, they look like they have more men in attack than Schalke do. I mean, look at this. I mean, Harrit, yes, he's fouled by Socrates, but really was starved for options. Lucky to win a free kick, and Socrates goes into the book early. Schalke whip it in, looking for Matondo. Macy in the Arsenal net will gather that one all day, and all of a sudden, just like that, the pressure relieved from Arsenal. Matondo now, though, on the ball. Can he try and find Katuchu? He does find him in the end. Medley dealt with it, only I think that's going to be ruled a corner. No, it's a throw-in by the looks of things, right by the corner flag for Schalke 04. 30 minutes gone. Fed to Merkan. Look at the bodies back here for Arsenal. Just lacking a little bit of patience here, Schalke. As Macy in the Arsenal net once again will gather the ball.
4 goals Schalke have scored now in almost 10 matches. That is a stat that just has to change, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's tough to see them getting 2. Here is Harrit, though, who might just change that. Medley is back with some powerful defending.
Just seems very rushed from Schalke. They don't have the patience to try and find that one extra pass that's needed. Here is Aubameyang, though, for Arsenal. They would love a second before the half. Pepe finds Maitland-Niles. Lovely passage of play there. Maybe rushed it in the end. Now Schalke have a chance to counter-attack. It's 3-on-4 at the back. Harrit gets Bujaleb involved, but maybe too much patience shown there. Alex Giardi with the interception, and now he can come forward controlling Lacazette. Aubameyang has Pepe to aim for, trying to find the Frenchman Lacazette. Nothing doing there, though. And it's been a frustrating 2 games of PES for either of these 2 clubs. Arsenal will be happier so far with the goal advantage as half-time in this second game rapidly approaches. No doubt, knowing Christopher, he will be happy to keep the ball and have the last attack and a half. As I say that, he lets the ball run across Pepe, and that's going to give maybe Schalke one more attack here with Bujaleb. Matondo feeds it back to Harrit, but forcing passes where they just aren't on for Schalke has been a theme of these 2 games. They will win possession thanks to this free kick for a foul by Aubameyang. So maybe one last throw of the dice here in the first half. But so far they've seemed to have run out of ideas. Mascarell. Only finds Medley. The referee's whistle is to his lips. One last chance here of the first half, and that will be 1-0 to Arsenal.
1-0 to the Arsenal. They will take that. And you sense, actually, they haven't been at their fluent best at all, Arsenal, but this would be 4 points against Schalke, and this would move them up towards 6th spot. And sometimes, if you're not necessarily playing at your brilliant best, if you can pick up points, you'll absolutely take that, won't you?
Yeah, 100%. And like we said, it'll be, what, 1 point behind Nantes in 6th. Kind of moves them into a good position. If obviously the result remains the same. Granted, though, you don't really want to count out Schalke. As bad as they've been in terms of goal scoring and things like that, it'll only take one opportunity for the likes of Goal or the likes of El Matador to really snatch a victory or snatch a result out of a game that they really arguably haven't got at the moment. But you can see there the general vibe of the Schalke guys. Some shakes of heads.
Look at Merriman.
Like it's
Merriman not happy with how Schalke have performed so far. That's a risky one from an Arsenal man, but you're right, they've lacked a little bit of belief so far this entire eFootball.Pro season. And if they were to concede another here against Arsenal, you might argue there is no way back. Here is Aubameyang. Stasic with a good enough touch, but doesn't get the ball out quickly enough, and it will be actually a free kick to the North London club, and in a dangerous position here as well. Pepe standing over the ball. We've seen one free kick goal already today. Another here from Lacazette would be no doubt well greeted by the studio. Also, look out for that man just shy of the penalty spot. Played short to Aubameyang, back to Lacazette, but it's the wrong option. They will come here once again with Kolasinac. Guendouzi looking for Aubameyang, but once again it's just a play that's forced a bit too much there from Arsenal in the build-up. Maitland-Niles again trying to force things. Becker's able to clear now and finds Boujalev, and Harrit actually there was essentially through on goal if the pass was good enough, but he's won the ball back here. Katucho in support as well, but Dordal's on the ball, not assertive enough, and Arsenal, they get away with murder right there.
I think we've all been in this scenario where you feel like the game's almost against you, which it isn't. You're not playing well. How does Schalke try and change their demeanour, just on the pitch, but also, as you can see in your screen there? Because perhaps that needs to change first. They need to get a bit of confidence within themselves, and then suddenly the chances might start to flow. But here is Aubameyang at the other end.
Yeah, Christopher controlling him. He's been a little lacklustre in the goal-scoring form so far this season as well, but has captained Arsenal to what would be a valuable 4 points in this fixture against Schalke, and the man who I'm just speaking about now has called for some changes to be made, and you can see the shift that Lacazette and Pepe have both put in. I imagine it will be Aubameyang and Lacazette to come off here, but they really have put a shift in for Arsenal, and it's one of the main reasons why they have looked fairly good, at least more successful on the counter-attack than their opponents.
Yeah, and all you can really say at this point is that you're worried for Schalke because they don't seem to have a rhythm. They don't seem to have a plan to kind of go forward with it. Sure, they are trying out different things and they're trying out different tactics and things like that. But ultimately, if the confidence isn't there, that's where you are worried as a Schalke fan. And I think looking at that general kind of demeanour, as you can see from the moment, they just seem to be just not at the races.
It's almost as if they've thrown in the towel here already. I hate to assume that, of course, as Rahman will come on, as will Caliguri. But Arsenal here now have reverted to that 4-4-2, which in the past has been so good for them. We'll see if Schalke, though, can get the equaliser. Nice turn by Harrit. It was almost too nice. And he turned straight into danger. Now a time for Medley to come forward. Both sets of players really, really rushing things here.
Schalke need a spark here. They really do.
Really, really do. Katuchu now. We'll get to this one first. What can he do with it down in this left-hand corner? First time to Rahman's nice. Had Amine Harrit on the edge. Still is on here, but Kolasinac in early. Caligiuri, that one's hit out in anger, and that will be surely a yellow card for that foul. And it's just signs of frustration here creeping in for the German outfit.
Yep, absolutely. It is exactly that. So far, it looks like it may well be 2 scoreless matches for Schalke against Arsenal. You don't see that too often as well. Reminder, they've only scored 4 goals. They're now approaching 10 matches in this season's eFootball.Pro. In saying that, despite everything, it's still only 1-0. And you look at you can see on your screen there, you'd almost think like they were 3 or 4 goals down with the demeanour that they're showing. They have to somehow take themselves out of it and realise that one chance, they get a point.
They look defeated, they really do. And fair enough, there isn't one on the Arsenal side, but this is the time where you'd really love to be Bayern München with Lutti behind you, or a player like Wishal, the almighty DS for Manchester United, just to, you know, maybe clap the hands in your face and say, wake up, lads, we're still in this one. But
it's the type of thing, if you're at home, if you can pause it and go out for a little breather, you probably would, but you can't hear. And Schalke are going to have to find themselves back into this game. The final 22 minutes of action on match day 5 of this season's eFootball.Pro. Will we get more late drama? We've had it all afternoon long.
Willock is the target, cut out by El Matador. We'll see if the changes made by either side can impact the final 20 in-game minutes here. Arsenal here happy to play with possession though, Wes. They have the lead. They certainly don't need to make anything or force anything in the attacking sense as they come forward here with Aubameyang looking for Willock, but they don't have the pressure on them. They're 1-0 up.
Yeah, and they should, if they don't already, recognise just how important this result would be if they can close it out.
Tuchu looking to find Caligiuri, but nothing is going right so far for Schalke. Pepe with loads of time to find Aubameyang down this left-hand side. Looks like it'll bounce out for a throw-in in Arsenal's favour as well, and all the time this clock is ticking down. It's also frustrating Schalke 04, who just want to play with some urgency. Merriman paints a disappointed figure right there in the centre of the Schalke 04 squad. I think he slammed his controller down there on the desk in frustration. He knows his squad is capable of so much more, but credit to Arsenal. They have played well enough for their 1-0 lead. They look set to hang on.
I think that's well enough, isn't it? And sometimes you have to walk away, Wes, and if you haven't played brilliantly and you still pick up 4 points against your opponent, it's as much better than playing terrifically well and only picking up 1 or 2 points, which we've seen plenty of teams do today. Scored loads of goals, but aren't going to pick up anywhere near as many points as Arsenal are.
Yeah, and I think looking at it, I think if Arsenal do come away with 4 points, they'll be absolutely delighted. And then more importantly, like we've said, it keeps them in the hunt for that top 6 spot, which if you're not playing brilliantly and you're still in the hunt, then they'd be just, as you've mentioned, just 1 point behind Nantes as things stand in 6th.
Guendouzi will force the corner out of Todibo. That's a bit of a cheap one for Schalke to give away, resulting from a throw-in. Saka now on the pitch for Arsenal. Punched away by the Schalke number 1. Only as far as Willock, though.
More shaking the head on the Schalke bench there. Need to try and get in a more positive frame mind. That's a very late challenge, and that will definitely be a yellow card. But Arsenal won't mind that, because actually Schalke had the ball in a promising position.
Maybe expecting the referee to play advantage there as we are approaching the final 10 in-game minutes here. Schalke, can they produce one last moment of drama? Here is Todibo, dwells on the ball, and Nketiah caught very late there by Becker. Men over here. Nketiah has Aubameyang in support, just needs to hold up the ball slightly, but Becker, controlled by Merriman, has done so well. Caligiuri now can maybe turn defence into attack, finds the feet of Kutucu. Back to Mascarell. This is better from Schalke. Harrit has bodies to aim for. That defence, though, so compact. 3 Arsenal players hounding him, jostling him off the ball. Todibo looks for Kutucu, but Arsenal defence resolute, and they need to be here for the final 5 minutes. Schalke finally finding their feet on the pitch, but too little too late, you might argue. as we're entering the final 4 in-game minutes. Mascarell to Debo. Nice ball to Katucu. Has Caliguri in support as well. This one will be brought back, though. As I said before, we've seen 1 goal from a free kick here already. What does Schalke have in their locker? Deflects off the wall for a Schalke corner. Late drama on the cards, potentially. McKinney. It'll actually be Caliguri to swing this one in. Nastasic at the front post. Guendouzi there smartly. Becker rifles over. And might that be the chance that Schalke may have missed to score some points here?
Fell to the wrong man, you sense in Becker, didn't it?
Yeah, that's a centre-half's finish if you've ever seen one.
2 minutes left. Arsenal on course for back-to-back clean sheets, which would be very impressive. Wasting just a few more seconds before Macy clatters it down the pitch. and Nketiah was almost onto that. Now can Schalke create one final chance here as we go into added on time?
Harrit now flicks it first time to Rahman. Katucu! Brilliant save. It will be a corner. Schalke showing signs of life late on. Wonderful flick from Harrit to set it all up, and wow, strong right hand to push it wide. That one almost crept in. And now
Keeper's up.
the keeper is up. We are into added on time here in the second half of this second game. Can Schalke snatch an equaliser? Caliguri swings it in. Keeper punches. Debo finds Nastasic. That's wasted. The groans from around the studio, because that surely now will be the final kick of the game. Macy holds the ball, hoofs it up the pitch. Is there time for Schalke to get it up the pitch? No, there is not. And Schalke 04, their goal-scoring woes continue. No goals in either of their games against Arsenal here. The North London side take 4 points.
Congratulations to Arsenal, who finish match day 5 with a victory. It was nervy, it was tight, it was cagey, but they did enough. And they go over to commiserate with their opponents.